Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. The band is back together, Pieman and myself on the screen at the same time for your delightful viewing. We've been threatening for a while that the major season in darts is upon us. Well, now it truly is. The World Grand Prix starts on the 3rd of October to the 9th. It's in Leicester for the third year running, away from its native home of Dublin. Maybe going back there next year, Pieman. We've got 16 of the top 16 in the world rankings and the top 16 from the PDC Order of Merit. It really is the creme de la creme. It's doubles in and doubles out and set format. So it is quite a unique event in the darting calendar. And now, Pieman, as we've said many times, all roads from here on in lead to Ali Pali. But there's plenty of darting action between now at the end of September and Christmas to come.
Yeah, certainly is. Can't wait for the Grand Prix to start. This is the proper start of major season. We've said it a few times, as you say, in recent months, but the juices really are flowing for me now. And you mentioned Ireland. It remains to be seen if we'll ever get back to Dublin, to be honest. I believe the City West Hotel is being used to house Ukrainian refugees at the moment, or at least that was the line that they gave the PDC. Matt Porter having to find an alternate venue at quite short notice, and made sense to go back to Leicester, who've hosted admirably through COVID times. It's a nice treat for the people of Leicester as well to be able to get down to a major, because don't forget, these have been heavily attendance restricted events in recent years. So, as I say, whether it'll go back to Ireland, I don't know. I know they want to get some kind of major in Ireland, but that could be a tricky one logistically going forward. Fun fact about this, the first ever World Grand Prix was actually hosted in Kent, where I'm based. That is not a fun fact for anyone aside from me. I just wanted to drop that in the research, really. Now we've got that rubbish out of the way, let's get into the main bit of the tournament. As you mentioned, double in, double out, which is the element that makes this unique. It's been a tournament won by a very esteemed few, 5 times by MVG, and in earlier years, 11 times by the great Phil Taylor. But other than those pair, only James Wade has won this tournament more than one time. So, you know, a difficult tournament to dominate, if you will, and that maybe gives us a little bit of a hint of what kind of a profile of a player we're looking for. I think Jonny Clayton and Gerwyn Price winning the last 2 renewals, the Welsh boys, but you know, in fairly recent years we've had winners such as Robert Thornton and Darrell Gurney. So compared to some majors, I do think that this double in, double out combined with the sets just opens up a little bit more for an upset. I'm always looking for a player that is very comfortable on a specific double, be it tops, be it 16s, either or. But I don't really want players that are going to be chasing around the board. Sometimes, I mean, a Peter Wright comes to mind, a Michael Smith comes to mind, a player that, you know, if it's not working on a double, they will just move around very quickly. I think this tournament really benefits a grinder who has their favourite double and just getting a really good flow with it, because getting off quickly is just as important as finishing. And it requires a really strong mentality with this set format as well, because I love set format, as I've said in all of our Worlds previews over the years. It requires a different mindset. You can win a set playing brilliantly, and then your opponent can win the next set playing average. You can sneak a set or you can dominate a set. They're all worth the same. So it's a real grind on the mind to not get too carried away when you win or lose a set and just go with the flow. And in terms of the field, as we've mentioned, 32 in there. And I like the balance of it, a little bit of consistency, but also a little bit of recency. We've got the 16 leaders on the Order of Merit that deserve to be there or have shown it over a long period of time. And then we've got the sort of up-and-comers who've performed well more recently. So for every sort of Gary Anderson clinging on to his world ranking, we have a Martin Lukeman who's had a really good year and deserves a chance to shine on the stage. So, you know, we've also got one of Roby John Rodriguez or Ross Smith to come into this field, and that will lock the 32 in. That is the only area that we're still not sure, and that will depend on the upcoming Euro Tour at Belgium. But other than that, we know the 31 players, and I'll be running through them all in detail over on another video.
Yeah, so that is the good news. Pieman has already done a video for the top 8 seeds, and he's going to be speaking about every single player of the 32 that will play in the World Grand Prix in detail on separate videos. So in this one, we're just here as a bit of an overview. Obviously, we're going to give a nod to the betting as well and the sponsors. I'll give it up to them. They've already priced it up with 33 players, if you like, in their
been
betting
up for a while
moment.
as well, haven't they?
Yeah, so hats off. hats off to Boyle Sports. We don't call out individual bookmakers very often, but credit where credit is due. So yeah, Pieman will be up with plenty of content there, and yeah, just really looking forward to it. Pieman, it's been a bit of a strange time really for some fans because they've been down under playing at daft times of the day where it doesn't suit me, and they've also been on the World Masters, or what is it called, World Series, and it's an invitational, so this is down to the proper stuff. And what we would say is the top 16 in the order of merit, by definition, they're invariably names that appear in the actual top 16 of the PDC Pro Tour rankings. But because they're in the order of merit, they can't qualify twice, if you see what I mean. So actually, we've got players that are around 30, 31 in the world that are qualifying. I don't think Martin Lukeman's even in the top 32 in the actual world rankings, but because he's in the top 16 in the Pro Tour rankings, he gets in. Similar comments could maybe attribute to Goldfinger as well, who's in there as well, Andrew Gilding. So yeah, plenty of clashes really, like you say, Pieman, of those that are in form, and you've got to be informed to be in the top 16 of the Pro Tour, as we know, and some that are just potentially on the slide or have been a bit weaker, but because of the 2-year cycle that you always explain to us, they're still in there, the likes of Jose, Gary Anderson, etc. So anyway, we're just going to call out a few names at this stage as to who we think it might be worth keeping an eye on, maybe 4 or 5 names, and like I say, Pieman is going to give you a detailed rundown of every single player as and when they are confirmed. I'm going to start, Pieman, at the top of the market where we normally do, and it's a bit of a bit changing really, because it was only a few weeks ago for the last major, the match play, where it was basically the top 3 or 4 in the market were all around the same price, 4 to 4, 5 to 1. There was 4 of them. There's a bit of distinguishment now between those. Michael van Gerwen has been in good form, won the match play, won the Premier League, as well. Yeah. So he's 7-2 outright favourite now. Pretty much where he should be, followed closely by Gerwyn Price at 4-1. And then there's a bigger gap than what there was when we last spoke, to the likes of Peter Wright 7, Jonny Clayton 8, Michael Smith 10, and then we'll come on to those at around 12 and 14. So yeah, the front 2 in the market are kind of edging clear a little bit in terms of the prices. Peter Wright turned up at this one last year, didn't he, and told us he was going to win. Did Peter Wright win? Oh no, it was Clayton last year. Sorry, Peter Wright won the match play last year. Yeah, Jonny Clayton won it last year. We're going to come on to him as well. I'm going to start, Pieman. Big Dirk. I've been saying on this channel for a long time, you don't always agree with me on it, but he's going to win a big one. It could be this. He made the final of this tournament as a virtual unknown outsider. I think it was his debut year in 2020. So he clearly likes the format. Got beat in the final by Gerwyn Price that year. And just on recency bias, in the World Series finals in Holland over the weekend, he was in cracking form, particularly on his doubles, which you need to be on the doubles for this tournament. I think he's a runner in any event at the moment, and he's 33-1 at the moment, Dirk.
Yeah, I really like Dirk, and I have perhaps challenged you in the past about whether he can go and win a major. I certainly think he's got the ability to do it. I'm just not convinced he's quite there with his sort of mindset yet. I mean, Price beat him in the final, and I know we were down to the last leg in that World Series of Darts, but Dirk did have the throw, and Price ended up breaking him. And I think Price even alluded to it. He said, I've got a little bit more composure than Dirk, and I know that. So I think other players perhaps know that Dirk is capable of a dip. He was quite lucky to get past Ryan Joyce in the quarterfinals of that tournament as well, because he missed about 10 darts at double in a pivotal leg that Joyce ended up nicking. It was only kind of Joyce's failure to kick on that got him off the hook. But look, when you can score like Van Duijvenbode, you're always going to be a difficult opponent. The great thing about his run to the final in the Grand Prix 2 years ago was the way he doubled. And I like him. When his doubles are firing, I find myself leaning towards backing him. But, it's very difficult to know until someone actually gets going. But if the early signs are good with Dirk, I couldn't put you off him. Somebody that I would like to flag as a dark horse would be Rob Cross. He's a juicy price. He's 33-1. And when I was running through the 8 seeds, anyone that's seen that video, I kind of alluded to him being the dark horse that I was most interested in. Anyone that's been following the rankings will know that Cross is just clinging on to this 8th spot. There is even a mathematical chance that he could lose the 8th spot before the Grand Prix starts if it was a disaster in Belgium. It's really important, I think, that he holds on to that, because the top 8 players are seeded, and it would mean he avoids Van Gerwen, Price, Wright, etc. till at least the quarterfinals. his form on the Euro Tour and the floor has been really, really encouraging in recent months, and he's making all the right noises for me. And the fact that he's been there and done it in majors before, I look at this cluster of players around the 12s, 14, 16, and they're all much of a muchness, all very good, very capable winners that need it to kind of come together. I think Cross, if he's playing well, is in that cluster. He's as capable as a Vandenberg or a Dirk if he's in form. We just maybe don't see as much of Cross at the moment because of where he is in his career. He's not getting invited to World Series events. He's not in the Premier League. But what regular viewers have seen on the Euro Tour is 3 Euro Tour finals. He won the most recent Players' Championship, so he's certainly in form. I think 33-1 on first show is very interesting.
I 100% agree with you, Pieman. As we always say, virtually every week, it is all about price. And at 33-1, like you say, there's no way that he's got nearly 3 times less of a chance than the likes of Michael Smith, Luke Humphries, and Joe Cullen. For as good as them guys are, Rob Cross at 33, like you say, he gets that seeding, which helps. He is going to be in the same section, if you like, of Gerwyn Price, but every section is going to be tough when you're in a tournament such as this. So yeah, and like you say, the thing about Cross is making all the right noises. Now, it might sound a bit, reading too much into it or far-fetched, but, he has said he is really much more settled. He's not doing as many tournaments, as you've mentioned, some of these invitational, the Premier League. I think he even said, and we've mentioned this before, if he was invited on the Premier League next year, he would turn it down. He's on record as saying that for 2023. Whether that, happens or not, it is quite a big paycheck, I imagine. But yeah.
Well, he'll be getting an invite if he wins this, won't he?
Yeah, 33-1. Could be of real interest. Back to the top of the market, Pieman. Gerwyn Price, he's 4-1, just behind Van Gerwen. For the last major preview we did, I said Gerwyn Price might never win a major title again. 9 days later, after I made that ludicrous statement, he was in the final of the World Match Play. And he lost in the final, an epic, absolute epic. You said it was going to be an epic on the preview video for the final, and it was. He lost that final, so I still could be right, but it's very unlikely. He's been making some bullish, very, very bullish comments recently, Gerwyn Price. And I think, to be honest, he's been picking and choosing tournaments this year. He's had an injury. He's been elsewhere with other interests, possibly. But that trip down under, and we've seen a bit of the background programming, if you like, from the PDC, looks to have really rejuvenated Gerwyn Price. Basically, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I'm presuming you're alluding to when he was playing rugby down under and, a little bit back to his roots. Of course, he gets to take the family over for the World Series to Australia and New Zealand, and we all know how much Gerwyn Price values his family time. He will not hesitate to pull out of a tournament if he thinks he needs to be with his family or if he's got something more important than darts. And he said himself recently that he maybe needs to give darts more attention, and that's got to be a scary comment for the rest of the PDC because he's not giving it much attention, but he still managed to win the World Series finals last week, and he was brilliant in doing so. I often say that I think Price is vulnerable at the start of the tournament. Maybe he's not vulnerable at the start of the tournament. Maybe it's just he's very, very hard to beat at the end of a tournament and it makes him look vulnerable. But I do still have this niggling feeling in the back of my head that if you get him in the first round, sometimes he struggles to hit them heights. And he does play in patches, Price, which can be to his detriment. But I think in this format, as we saw in 2020, the set format, he can have them dips and he can come back. And I think the advantage as he goes deeper into this tournament is if he has a bad set, he often gets to walk off stage, regroup himself and come back on. And he's very, very good at just getting on with it. He can put a bad set behind him and look on to the next one. And let's not forget, won in 2020 and then final in 2021. So he's effectively won 9 of his last 10 games on that stage. That is serious form. He's very settled in Leicester. And you wouldn't want to bet against him doing it again, would you? Not much juice in the price, pardon the pun, but I wouldn't discount him lightly.
Yeah, and he's going to be in the other half of the draw to Van Gerwen and Clayton, who hammered him last year, Clayton. So you would much prefer to be in Gerwyn Price's section of the draw than those I've just mentioned, to be fair. Right, on to Van Gerwen, then we always have to mention him, deservedly so. Won his first major in over 2 years in the match play, as we've already mentioned. Certainly looks to be in his best form since COVID. Let's put it that way. Career best form, might be pushing it, but is edging towards being back there. He's back to being favourite of all these big tournaments like this one. He's just a favourite. I know you put him up over the weekend, Pieman, in the World Series finals. He's obviously a major player in any of these tournaments.
Yeah, I did put him up. He went out in the quarterfinals in the end to Jonny Clayton, and Jonny Clayton played very well. Van Gerwen was 6-4 up in a race to 10, and then Clayton reeled off 5 legs. And we all know that any of these players at any time can put in a 4-5 leg devastating spell. So nothing lost in defeat there, I didn't think. His general form this year has been so encouraging, as you said earlier, winning the Premier League and then going on and winning the match play. And how good was he in that final? I mean, if he saves his best for the majors, then we're in for a treat this week, this week, aren't we? Because he really was unplayable in that final. It was only some really strange doubling that prevented the world record being broken. I think the 180 scoring was a joke in the opening 10 or 15 legs. It really was
brilliant game.
Yeah, it was a joy to watch. But I think I've alluded to it in the other video. His record in this tournament is scary. He's won it 5 times, and he's also been a runner-up. He went out to Danny Noppert in the first round last year, but generally speaking, there's something about this double in, double out that seems to get Van Gerwen going. And I do often talk about him getting inside his own head. And I think that if he turns up here thinking that this is his tournament, he's going to take some stopping. As you say, he's got Jonny Clayton in his half of the draw, and that'll be a challenge because Clayton really turned on the afterburners against him at the World Series. I would love to see them two going at it over a long set format. But Van Gerwen, a lot of his previous successes here have been down to his proficiency on the doubles. And I say I don't like someone that moves around on the doubles, but he can sometimes move around on the doubles and make you look silly. You know, the cameramen sometimes struggle to keep up with him. One leg he's going off tops, the next one he's going off 18s, the next one he's going off 16s. Yeah. You know, he does whatever he wants, but he's probably the one man that I wouldn't be worried if he was jumping around on the doubles, because normally when he does it, it's for the good reason that he's going to hit it. So, yeah, Van Gerwen and Price, I'm really struggling to put marks against them, but I do feel like just because of the nature of this tournament, you can take them both on. But look, if anyone's got a strong gut feeling for either of them two, I ain't going to put you off.
All right, man, I'm putting you on the spot. You've got to back Price or Van Gerwen. Who would you back? I'll give you my answer first. I would back Gerwyn Price. I think he's got a more favourable draw, and I think he could peak at the perfect time, the back end of this year, starting in this week. Who would you be with? Van Gerwen 7-2 or Price 4-1?
I sit on the fence a little bit and say that on form, if you were telling me that they were both going to get to the final, I'd want to be with Van Gerwen. But I think you're right. Gerwyn Price might just have the slightly better draw. So I think you'd have to say half a point bigger and the better draw. I'd have to go with Gerwyn Price as the value selection. But if they've met in the final, it'd be Van Gerwen for me, just off that match play performance. Wow.
Yeah. Similar question, and the next bracket in the betting: Peter Wright 7-1, Jonny Clayton, the reigning champions, 8-1. Who would you be with out of those two?
Jonny Clayton, more reliable. Peter Wright, really impressed with the way he came back to win that Euro Tour event recently, but he's just got more question marks over him at the moment, Snake, for me. He missed a lot of darts in the last few months, and just wonder whether that lack of match sharpness might cost him in a close encounter. But, you know, when he gets rolling, he's such an annoying player, Peter Wright, isn't he? We'd say it every video, but it's just like, you could take him on and he just looks like he's not going to miss anything sometimes. So he's got it in the locker. But no, Clayton's the more reliable performer for me at the moment. And signs he's coming back to form and won it last year. What's not to like?
Yeah, he has had a quiet year. You've detailed that on your other video, Pieman Clayton. But I still find it mad that he is, in my mind and in the mind of the bookies, he's a well-established member of that big four, if you like. But he's world number 7. Because he's been winning tournaments like the Premier League, the Masters that are unranked. It's just a anomaly, I think, is the word they use.
And Jose de Souza above him. I mean, I love Jose, but there's something wrong with that, isn't there?
Right, on to the next section in the betting, if you like, Pieman. Michael Smith is 10s, Luke Humphries is 12s, Cullen is also 12s, and Dimitri is 14. As we've alluded to earlier, and they are going to be detailed on other videos, they're just... any of them could win on any given tournament. Obviously, they all can't win any given. They all can't win majors. 2 of them listed there haven't. But yet, it's just the depth of talent is there, and you know they're going to be around the same price for every tournament for the next 3 or 4 months, and it wouldn't be a surprise for any of them to make the final or win it. It's just picking them on the, just getting it right when you put your money on, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if them four played each other in a round robin, they'd probably win a similar amount of matches, such as the standards. But I think you have to try and ride the waves with these players in terms of form. We saw Jonny Clayton have a fantastic 2021. Maybe one of them four players is going to just come in to form at the right time in the back end of this season. But out of the players you mentioned there, Luke Humphries is the one that we've talked about the most this year, and I think that he would be the one that would probably appeal to me the most, because I do feel like he's ready to take that step and win an event like this. In this little run of majors coming up, I feel like he will win one. As you say, a lot of it is landing on him at the right time. I think you have to give Dimitri Vandenberg a hell of a lot of credit for what he's achieved in majors. He seems to repeatedly be there at the back end in finals. He's won the match play. He's made multiple of the finals, and he just doesn't flounder when the odds are against him. Joe Cullen is someone who seems to find a way even when he's not playing well. I mean, I've seen people saying that Joe Cullen has a tremendous amount of luck. To do something that many times isn't luck.
No.
He hangs in games. He can average 80 something and still hit the shots at the right moment, hit that 140, 180 to pressure his opponent, take out a three-figure out when he needs it back against the wall, So it's not fair to discount Joe Cullen as a lucky player. You don't get lucky that many times. I couldn't, again, if you've got a strong inkling for one of these players, if they put it all together on the day, they can win it. I think when it comes to this tier of player, I have to wait and see the draw, because, a Dimitri, a Cullen, they might get a very different draw to each other, and it may make me lean one way. Even though the price is the same, I might prefer one player's draw to the other. That's how I would deal with that tier of play.
And what you have to say about those four, Pieman, they're all around the same price. In this tournament, they are not ranked or seeded. So they could, any of those four players mentioned, Smithies, any of Humphries, Cullen or Vandenberg could draw Price, Van Gerwen, anyone in the first round. So, there's people in the top 8 that are seeded, like James Wade, like Jose de Souza, who are 33-1. And these guys who are unseeded in this tournament are much shorter. So that's something to add into the mix there. The draw will obviously be done in about a week's time, Pieman, after the action in Belgium is confirmed. There's 2 questions to answer. As we've already mentioned, Ralby John Rodriguez or Ross Smith, they will be the 16th and final player through the Pro Tour qualification. And there's a question mark over who will be ranked 7th and 8th, but it's long odds on that Clayton will be 7th, Rob Cross will be 8th. Just before we wrap up, Pieman, anyone a bigger price, or to word the question better, any of the Pro Tour qualifiers that we should be looking at? I mean, there's some familiar names in there, particularly Damon Hetzer, who is number 1 through that qualification. Ryan Searle, Daryl Gurney, former winner. Andrew Gilding, we've already mentioned. Gabe Clemens, your favourite. A.D. Lewis, I think he's made a final of this before. Lukeman, we've already mentioned. Rids, there's all sorts in there. Brendan Dolan, famously a 9-darter on home soil in this tournament, one of the only guys to ever do that. So yeah, any of the Pro Tour qualifiers, or the other 16 if you like to keep an eye on.
Well, out of the Pro Tour qualifiers, I know it's an obvious choice, but Damon Hetzer at 40-1 has shown that he's more than capable of mixing it. He won the World Cup with Simon Whitlock, of course. I was hoping that Whitlock may find a late surge to get into this tournament, because he really is playing some inspired stuff when we see him at the moment, Whitlock. But Damo will be a nightmare draw for whoever he gets, and he still needs that TV experience. He needs to keep building it. We've seen him on the wrong end of a few results. He maybe struggled a little bit in terms of results on the World Series, but I would discount that, because for me, that tournament was more about him getting home and enjoying some downtime after what has been a really solid period of work for him. He just keeps
He'll be disappointed though, won't he, Pieman?
He will, because let's not forget, he rose to prominence by winning a World Series event as a qualifier when nobody had heard of him. So he would have wanted to go back home and show those Aussie fans just how good he is. Not to say he didn't do that. He got some very tough draws, by the way. He seemed to be constantly playing one of Price, Van Gerwen or Clayton every time I looked. So, no shame in losing to those guys. But look, 40-1, Hetzer is of interest. I know he's not strictly a Pro Tour player, but I think Dave Chisnell at 50-1 in spurts has been playing as well as when he got to the World's semi-finals and lost to Gary Anderson. The year that he destroyed, he had a cracker with Dimitri and then destroyed Van Gerwen. There are shades of that. I will just say that Chizzy had an absolute meltdown in the World Series finals when he was looking, to me, he looked like every inch like he could win that, but he always finds a way, doesn't he, Chizzy? Finds a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. 5-1 up on Joe Cullen. He missed about 10 match darts, started shaking his head at the crowd, and Cullen did what Cullen did, come in and mopped up. People will say he was lucky, but, you know, he held himself together. I do think Chizzy is playing far better than a 50-1 chance, but again, this end of the field, they're all kind of capable on their day, but I will be waiting for the draw before I make any firm conclusions on this section.
Yeah, you've got to wait for the draw. I'll mention 2 names before we wrap up, Pieman. Ryan Sewell, almost forgotten about in 2022 and the back end of 2021, for good reason, because he's not quite been doing it. But if you go back 18 months and you were to tell me that Ryan Sewell would be 50-1 for this tournament, even last year, I'd have laughed at you and I'd have been all over it. Class is permanent usually, and yeah, he's not had a great year, but he's another one of those that's not qualified, that's not in the Premier League, and that's not getting invites to World Series, and he's a nightmare. And he is
out of sight, out of mind a little bit.
Yeah, and I tell you what, on his doubles, he is hot. Very, very hot. He's an excellent tops hitter.
I will be dropping a few more of these stats in a different video nearer the time, but I could tell you that in 2022, Ryan Searle has the best percentage on double top out of any player in this field.
Not surprised me at all. The other one, just quickly, the other one I'm going to mention that's 150-1, I mention him regularly, Martin Schindler. He got very, very close to beating Gerwyn Price in the match play. I think that was in the first round. Really close. Yeah, he's had opposite to Searle, he's had a really good year and has been in cracking form basically for the last year. So he's one to look out for as well. But like we've said, we need to look out for the draw.
Yeah, definitely. And when the draw does come out, I'm sure we'll be there with a match-by-match sort of look at it and best tips for the round 1 action.
Yep, absolutely. So thanks for tuning in. That'll wrap it up for this video. We're very much looking forward to the World Grand Prix and beyond in the darting season. So leave us a comment below and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.